Lauren Rezac. I'm the Business Services Director at Yankton Thrive, and I'm also a part of the NextWave leadership team. So before we kick off our panel tonight, I'm going to take a moment to recognize and celebrate this year's 31 Under 31 honorees. So if you were featured in this year's 31 Under 31, can you stand up, please? Can we give a round of applause? So each of you is nominated by someone who sees the impact you're making, not just in your workplaces, but in the community as a whole. This year's group represents a wide range of industries, from healthcare to hospitality, manufacturing to education, creative services, finance, ag, and more. It's inspiring to see such diversity in both career paths and personal passions, all converging here in Yankton. You all are proof that young professionals are shaping the future of this community in meaningful, lasting ways. Whether you're leading teams, launching ideas, volunteering your time, or just showing up every day to do great work, you're helping make Yankton a vibrant place to live, work, and thrive. And for that, we thank you all. So I would also like to thank our 4 panelists here, Maggie, Jeff, Brennan, and Brandon, for agreeing to participate and taking the time to share your insight with all of us. These 4 were all featured in a 31 Under 31 campaign from previous years, and they're going to talk about their experiences as young professionals in the Yankton community. So now I'll turn things over to Charlie. Charlie Stevenson is our panel moderator for the evening, and he's also on our NextWave leadership team. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about NextWave, and then we'll get this conversation started.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I'm just going to say a few words about the NextWave Network, and we'll get started. So the NextWave Network was formed last fall. The Thrive and United Way formed that, and it's really a space for young individuals. I say young individuals, 21 to 40 is kind of our target audience. If you're 41, please I'll welcome you with open arms. But just to network, to get together, to socialize, maybe to learn some things, to meet more people in Yankton, and kind of continue to connect the young professional community. We hesitate to use that young professional word because some folks don't see themselves as professionals, and we're all professionals in our own industries, no matter what you do or where you work. And so that's really our mission, so to speak. We hold events every other month or so. Thrive does a great job at kind of letting folks know about our events. There's also ways to sign up. We have a Facebook group to get email notifications, other ways. So thank you all for attending. We'll jump right in. I will ask our panelists, as you answer questions, to please stand up, if that's okay with you guys. So we'll start with a general opening question. A quick intro from each of you, what you do, what brought you to Yankton, or what has kept you here, and what being named a 31 Under 31 recipient meant to you. And we'll just go down the line.
Thank you. My name's Maggie. I am in the marketing department at Shur-Co here in town. We manufacture tarp systems for grain trailers in the agriculture industry, construction side downs, flatbed trailers that you may see driving down the highway, cargo control products as well, rack straps, any sorts of transportation things that you would need or see on the road. That's what we do there. What brought me to Yankton? I grew up here in Yankton. I'm from Yankton. I graduated high school in 2007, which is many years ago. My husband and I are both from Yankton, so when we decided to have a family and where we wanted to be, Yankton was the number one choice for us. Both of our families are still in town, and we really wanted to raise our kids around our grandparents. And what it means to be a 31 and a 31 is so cool. And again, growing up here and then being honored by the community who raised you, essentially, it's a really humbling honor.
Well, I speak to hundreds of people a week, and I'm nervous kind of doing this. So, hey, thanks for everybody for being here. I have a really, really fun and really weird job. I'm like a full-time professional writer and therapist. I function kind of like a CEO. I'm a leader developer. I'm a community health organization leader, and all that is just a fancy way of saying pastor at Restore Church here in town. And what brings me to Yankton is my wife and I, we're high school sweethearts from here in Yankton. And we've had so many blessings to travel and see different parts of the country, different parts of the world, but our heart just beats for Yankton. Like, we exist, my family exists to make Yankton a great place to, what's the phrase, live, play, and thrive. Is that the phrase we use? That's what my family exists to do here. And this is really fun for me. The nature of my work is not to do things for recognition, but so we just do things for the community all the time, not seeking recognition. So 31 Under 31 was really fun for me because though it's not what we do it for, it's kind of like the first time I've ever been recognized outside of my church community for bettering the community. And so this is actually a really, really fun thing that I'm really honored to be part of it. So thank you, Thrive and NextWave, for the honor.
Hello, my name is Brennan Ewald. I am the co-owner at Boston Shoes to Boots in downtown Yankton. We sell shoes, if you didn't know from the title. I'm originally from Yankton. I went to college at USD, and then I moved to Sioux Falls for about 6 years, and that was fine. And I really wanted to get back to my family. I also saw more growth career-wise, and if I ever wanted to do something on my own, happening in Yankton as opposed to somewhere else. So that brought me back here. And then I was really flattered when I was recognized in 2017. My sister was also that year. I think it's just awesome to be recognized. You know, we were new into the business at the time, so it was really cool to see people recognizing the hard work we were putting in. And I really look forward every March to everybody who receives it as well, to see what other people are doing. And I just think it's really important for that to continue for the young people in this town.
My name is Brandon Van Osdel. I'm from just 5 miles east of here from Gayville. My wife and I both grew up in the Yankton community, so born and raised here type of deal. And to emulate here what some of these guys said is just a lot to offer here in the Yankton community to bring us back. I guess my family's been here since the wheel fell off the wagon in 1872, so it's been an awesome opportunity to be nominated on the 31 for 31 and just to recognize and socialize, network with some of the folks that I grew up with, and to realize that, you know, we're kind of into our adult lives here, and we're the young next wave of professionals here in the Yankton community. So I'm an agronomist at New Century FS, and the legacy group there was Yankton Ag Service. So we've been a part of the Growmark umbrella, which is the 3rd largest national retailer for agriculture in the United States. So it's pretty crazy to have the power that they've got in Bloomington, Illinois, all the way here in Yankton. It's been a really good opportunity to work with the farmers and ranchers here in the area. So I'm very humbled and blessed to be a part of this panel. So thank you.
Brennan, I'll come back. Since you're in a row and you had the microphone, you're first up. So, you talked a little about Growmark and agriculture. You know, agriculture is always evolving. Technology, sustainability, climate concerns. How have you, in your time even before Growmark, adapted to those changes in your roles, and how do you see younger professionals influencing the future of those changes in ag in our region?
Yeah, so agriculture probably has one of the world's largest spotlights or magnifying glasses on us. There isn't much that goes on, whether it's with chemicals or seed or fertilizer or conservation efforts, political backings. There's a lot that goes on that people are just always watching agriculture. So it's been a unique challenge as a young person in an industry that's dominated by folks, probably 40 years older than a lot of us that are getting going. So the average age of an American farmer is like 58 and a half years old. So just to spread that gap, you say, how am I able to influence that, or what's that like working for that? It's been an uphill battle. Agriculture is relationship based 100%. You could know it all, you could walk the walk and talk the talk, but if you can't have a meaningful relationship with a customer, then we don't succeed as a business. And just to tie off of that too, agriculture as an industry as a whole, competition aside, the world is our customer. So if we can't do a good job and prove that we care and do a good job producing the world's food, we're out of work. So.
Yeah, thank you. I like how you tied that into, the ground, the soil, the world, really. Thanks. Brennan, you're next up. As a small business owner in downtown Yankton, you're in the thick of the local business community. What has been your biggest lesson as a young entrepreneur here, and what advice would you give to someone thinking about starting a business in a small community such as Yankton?
I have notes so that I don't ramble about nothing. I would say my biggest lesson throughout this 8-year journey that I've been on with my sister and my family is being tough and resilient. When we started off, we were sisters, we were females, we were like, yes, we're gonna do this and we're gonna grow it and everyone's gonna love it. And for the most part, everybody did. But there was some, people that were used to the way things were at the shoe store that had been around for a long time. And when they would come in for work boots, I think they saw 2 women and they were like, well, what do you know about safety toe boots? And I was like, nothing yet, but I will. And we've obviously learned a lot. So, and then I think with good experiences with customers, which we've had millions and millions, it seems like, there's also some bad. So I think, you have to get tough in that aspect too. We've also outgrown our space 3 times. We did 2 remodels at our old location and then realized pretty quickly that wasn't gonna last. So we had to purchase a new space. So with that also came a ton of remodels and construction and all the logistics that go into that. So that was tough, kind of rolling with the punches there. And then, I don't know if any of you drove down Cedar Street last fall. Well, you didn't because it was under construction for several months, and I understand for the infrastructure of the city that needs to happen, and it looks amazing. I was not prepared for how hard that was gonna hit us. We do orders months and months and months in advance, 9 to 10, and we didn't know that was gonna happen. So we have all this fall product coming in, and just because you're not busy with sales doesn't mean that they still don't send you bills. You get a lot of them at once, and it's hard to juggle, who gets paid first and where the priority is. I was lucky enough to have a very positive sister. I sometimes can get a little on the negative side of things when that happens, which happened in those months. It was tough, but we made it through, and luckily she helped me from, not crying every day, so that was good. I've also been through, as a co-owner, 2 of my sister's maternity leaves. There'll be a 3rd this summer, which means that I have to run the place on my own for 3 months. So I've done that twice, feeling pretty confident I could do it a 3rd time. We also now have amazing staff, which is huge. We have a manager and they'll all help me out, so that's awesome. And then I think our biggest struggle right now and worry is what's gonna happen with the tariffs. We've heard from some companies. I don't really know how we're gonna navigate that, but I think the moral of the story is I've gotten really tough over the years. I think the resiliency is a huge factor, and I think you have to roll with the punches. And then I would say advice for someone wanting to start a business in this community is we're huge on customer satisfaction. When you walk into Boston Shoes to Boots, you're instantly greeted. We want you to feel welcome. We want you to know that we know you're there. We want to help you. We want to hit you with all the product knowledge and more, even if you didn't ask for it. And so we want you to leave happy. We also know that, most of the stuff that we carry you can buy online, or you can go out of town to get it if you really want to. So we want to create a place where you want to come back because we're so helpful and it's a fun atmosphere. I think also having a really positive workplace and work culture is huge for us. As we've grown over the years, we've added employees. We have some full-time staff and some part-time. So I think making sure they're really happy because they're face to face with customers just as much as my sister and I are. So we'll do, bonuses, and they get free shoes after achieving things, and the break room is fully stocked with chips and candy and pop or whatever they need. So I think as long as it's positive and you show up and you want to have a good time, I think that only reflects back on our customer service, and I think that's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also on Cedar Street, but I work in banking, and we collect interest whether or not you show up to the bank. So, but I never thought about that. I mean, that's, you guys are just up the street, and our traffic went down, significantly. And that's an interesting challenge. I appreciate you sharing openly about that. Jeff, you're up next. As a pastor and a community leader, you're often supporting others through big life moments. How's being a young professional in a faith-based role help you connect with the broader Yankton community in and outside the church?
Well, first, I want to talk about Boston Shoes, and everybody should go buy shoes there because the customer satisfaction story. We buy our kids shoes once a year, and I went to your store last summer to get our shoes, and you guys were so awesome that I went to go buy one pair of shoes for one kid. And I think we bought the whole family shoes just because you guys were so nice. So everybody go buy shoes at Boston Shoes. So there we go. We got a full commercial right here for Boston Shoes. So now I forgot what my question is. How has being a young professional helped me connect with broader communities?
Yeah.
Well, a couple things. Being a young professional is kind of fun for me. I started pastoring in Yankton about a decade ago. And I think a decade later, I think I'm still the youngest pastor in town. And so I kind of got that going for me as the young professional. Because nobody expects somebody my age to be a pastor 10 years ago or today, and they're like, oh, I didn't think somebody like your age could do that. And so that's fun. But as far as connecting with the community, I feel like as a pastor, I kind of have an organizational advantage. I think what a lot of business leaders want to do to connect with their community is you need to sell a product, and you want to do what your organization is about, and then out of the profit, you want to strive to make the community a better place to live, play, and thrive, right? You want to do that as a business leader. But in my world, making the community a better place is simultaneously part of our organizational. If you said we had a product, that would be part of our product, right? We preach the message of Jesus as the only sufficient means of salvation, also in a way that makes the community a better place. And so what we're trying really hard to do is I kind of want to redefine how people think of church, honestly. Kind of like using business terms, I want kind of to help people redefine church as maybe using the business term of an industry, like true Jesus-centered church is not like a social club. We have this phrase, we want to be a part of the community rather than a pocket community. And so I try to teach our people to think of our church as a missions organization that exists to preach the gospel while making the community a better place. And so our purpose helps me connect with the community by nature, because our purpose isn't to be this little social club. It's meant to be woven into the community by addressing felt needs. And I think I don't want to preach a sermon to you guys or anything. I mean, I would, but I think that's what Jesus did. He addressed spiritual needs while also addressing the most tangible, practical needs. And so at Restore, where I pastor, we've addressed the practical felt needs of the community with everything that we have. For example, I hope many of you have been blessed by our kids campus on 15th Street. Raise your hands if you guys have been there or know what it is. Okay, if the rest of you, I need to give you a tour. We turned this old abandoned church into an indoor kids playground that's free for most of there's free play days, and then the parties that you pay for, they're so affordable, it might as well be free. And that came out of a felt need of saying, like, hey, what would bless Yankton? We have hot summers, cold winters, and we all want more things for young children. So we just said, what resources do we have? Let's do that. Or if you've ever been to the movie at the Meridian, that was a felt need to bless families. Our foster ministry, that's a felt need. One of the most underserved demographics of society. And so I can kind of tie all that up just to say that for us, for me, connecting with the community as a young professional, it's just the nature of our organization. And this is also a church invitation too, I guess, as I'm selling it really, really hard right now. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I really like what you said about addressing needs in the community and some of the successes you guys have had. Thank you. Maggie, marketing in a manufacturing setting often requires translating complex products like ratchet straps into clear, engaging messages. What have you learned about communicating across different teams or departments, and how has working in Yankton's business community influenced your professional growth? That second question is a little bit of a tangent.
It is. First couple things, Boston, yes, awesome. Kids campus, equally as awesome. So thank you for that. Communications, I'm going to pull out a Shrek reference. I feel it. The world of communications is an onion. There are layers. Just like Shrek, he's an ogre, he has layers. The world of communications, there's so many different pieces to that and how we communicate to our different customers. We have our 58-and-a-half-year-old farmer. He's our end user. We have our dealers. Truck and Trailer here in town would be one of our dealers. We have Wilson Trailers, who's our OEM. So we have to communicate to each of those different levels of customers in different ways, different tone, different voice, different messaging. And then also internally with our employees. What's a new policy on PTO? Or what's a holiday pay? How does that going to work? Whatever that looks like internally, we have to change that tone as well. So I found that communication face-to-face is always best. And putting yourself out there, walking out of my office down to engineering and just talking to them and seeing what is going on with this product. How can I sell this to my 58-and-a-half-year-old farmer, as an example? Or HR, how can we make this message sound more friendly and upbeat if we are changing our holiday pay or whatever that would be? How has working in Yankton's business community influenced my professional growth? My advice is to network. These type of events are super great and get yourself out there in the community. I feel like, again, well, all four of us have grown up in this area, so that's an advantage that we've had is growing up with people in this community as well. But just put yourself out there, network. Again, the face-to-face interactions like these are really, really helpful. And then using your resources wisely. If this last summer we had a project, we had to outsource a bit of that project through a different manufacturer in town. And again, it's just knowing those resources and who to contact to get a win-win for everybody.
Thanks, Maggie. We're going to stick with you if that's all right. What's something about working in manufacturing that might surprise other young professionals?
I can speak pretty well to this. Growing up, I was not involved in manufacturing at all. I was just not familiar with it. And now working in manufacturing, my eyes have been opened so much. We have the marketing team, we have our sales team, we have engineering, IT, accounting, HR, the manufacturing, the operations. I mean, all that goes on within Shur-Co and the other manufacturers here in town. And again, I was not exposed to that growing up. And so there's a lot more than just what meets the eye when it comes to manufacturing. I believe, at least for Shur-Co, I'm sure others in town as well offer internships as a way to get involved and have exposure to the different departments within the manufacturers. And then also I'm going to highlight Manufacturing Week. That always takes place in October. That's a good way to get yourself in those doors, tour around the facilities, ask those questions, see what we make. There's so much that's made here in Yankton. What we do at Shur-Co, what this used to be a Freeman company, just there's a lot going on in our community that manufacturing is a part of.
Yeah, thank you. I think you make some great points. Manufacturing is a lot more than what if you can drive by, the building or the yard that you see outside. Jeff, what have you learned about leadership, especially spiritual or servant leadership as a young professional?
So much. We're in a really fun season at Restore. From 2021, we were averaging 100 people gathered together per Sunday. To recently, we started averaging up to 500, and we had over 600 people gathered on Easter. And so you would be familiar with the term exponential growth, and it's more complicated than slow growth. I'm sure some of you guys have experienced the same thing. And so leadership is my obsession right now. I'm like, part of my job now is to just write leadership content for my growing team and do a leadership podcast and leadership training. And And I'm in a strange season where I spend so much less time one-on-one with people and more time with leaders who I'm developing to spend time with people to get there. And so for all that to say, I could do a whole like TED talk on this topic right now, but I'll just share my favorite leadership lesson right now. And I think my favorite one right now is the lesson of necessary clarity. I think most leaders, if you're here and you're a business owner, or you're a manager, or more executive type role of some sort, most leaders have a clearer idea of the vision or goal that they're pursuing than they communicate. If you guys, we'll do a little exercise if you guys want. We have a clear vision that we communicate with the people who are following our lead. And so you asked what I'm learning about leadership. I'm going to walk you through the lesson of it, okay? And so it's like, whether you're talking about the macro scale, the big vision of your organization that you're running, or the small task at hand, most leaders have a clearer idea than they communicate. And so we need to add as much clarity as we can, because most people aren't bad workers or trying to do a bad job. Most people want to follow your lead really, really well. They just want more clarity to do it well. And sometimes they feel embarrassed or like they're going to sound dumb if they ask. And so we want to, as leaders, provide as much clarity as we can. So a little exercise. At Restore, we have to define leadership the same way. Otherwise, I have different leaders doing different things. And if we went around the room, anybody, one of you volunteers, define leadership for me. Like two or three volunteers define leadership for me. Anybody raise hands? Feeling brave? That's okay. All right, that flopped. But all right, define leadership for me.
The ability to inform others of the direction of a task and to lead them, to guide them through the completion of that task.
Man, you and me would hang out. We would get along really well. That's a good definition. Anybody want to give another definition? Well, if you guys would participate a little bit better, then what we would find is we would have different definitions. And without clarity of definition, then we're going to lead in different directions, even if they're similar but different, right? So for us, we define leadership as taking people someplace you're already going, really close to yours. The leader knows where they're leading. We have a clear vision of it. So that means my job is to help everybody who wants to follow my lead have the clearest path possible to get there, right? So people who are struggling, they're struggling because they're taking a roundabout path to get to where we're going, often because leaders lack clarity. So that's my favorite lesson right now. I've got hours worth of these, so I'll just put a pin on it there. But my favorite one is leadership clarity, helping the people following your lead because they want to do a good job, helping them get there as clearly as possible. And it's easier when we're clear because clarity is kindness. So that's my favorite one right now.
Thanks, Jeff. Repeat that definition for me one more time.
Taking other people someplace you're already going.
Taking other people someplace they're already going.
You're
already going. I like that. Thank you. Brennan, what is it like taking over the long-standing local business? You kind of alluded to that. As a young co-owner, and how have you and maybe your sister or family made your mark?
So I'll give you a little history. Boston Shoes to Boots opened in 1915. So when we bought it in 2016, it was 101 years old. So it's a long-standing local business. We purchased it from Dennis and Ann Menke in 2016. They had it for several years, and then before they had it, his dad had it. So it started off as shoe repair for them, and then over the years they added merchandise. They had around 10 brands when we purchased it. It was mainly work boots that, facilitated the local manufacturing, a lot of the agriculture, things of that nature. And then they had a couple of comfort brands. So we really took our time from them right away trying to figure out kind of how they had done this for so long. Obviously, we weren't going to come in and try and reinvent the wheel. They had done a really good job for a really long time, which was why it was still there. So we didn't want to come in guns blazing by any means. I would say their biggest message to us was comfort and quality. So we wanted to stick with that. You can buy a lot of shoes for not a lot of money and you're on your feet all day and they really hurt. So we didn't want to do that. We wanted to go in that direction where we carried quality footwear. So over the years, I would say after that first year, because we had to learn repair, that took about 6 months. Mandy and I had never even so much as taken a shop class at all. But obviously we got good at that, thank goodness. But that took a lot of learning from him. And he had a lot of wisdom along the way that we listened to. So we didn't go in guns blazing, like I said. We didn't want to change anything. We just knew we eventually wanted to grow from what he already had. So we slowly went to market, kind of researched those comfort and quality brands to make sure that our messaging was the same across the board. Now, 8 years later, we have over 45 brands, which is insane. It's too much. I'm the one that does the ordering too, so it's my fault. So we have over 45 brands. We do everything from footwear to socks, orthotics, care products, and then obviously we do repair services. We can now outfit your whole family. So that was something we added on a few years ago, was kids. We saw a need for that. We kind of stayed away from it for a long time and then kept listening to our customers and felt like that was a huge need. So we have dress, casual, work. We have athletics, which used to be work boots were number one. Now athletics has completely taken that over, which has been really exciting because I'm a sneaker girl, so it works out perfectly. We also expanded at our old location. I told you that twice, and then bought a new location. So that was kind of putting our own mark on things. That was hard, but we did bring along and refab the signs. So we're just kind of making our own mark on the new building. And we do have our home decor store in the old space, so it's still being utilized, and that's called Forte. We also do professional framing, if you need anything like that. I would say, just to wrap up that we've always seen the significance and the quality and the comfort that they always carried, so we've stuck around with that. Customer service, as I mentioned earlier, is huge for us. And then our growth in so many things is kind of putting our own stamp on it. But I would say the message is the same, because it hasn't been around since 1915 for no reason. So I feel like we really just wanted to elaborate on what they had already created.
Thank you. Brandon, I'm trying to pick which question. I've got two to ask you which one. I think I'm going to hit on this one, and you touched on it, relationships. How do you balance the technical and relationships aspects of your job? Obviously, by trade, you're an agronomist. That's pretty technical. But the customer aspect, the relationship basis, and how has that played out in the Yankton area? And maybe speak a little bit to, you're from the Yankton area. So how is that maybe catered or not catered to that relationship piece?
So agriculture is increasingly a technology-based industry, and you talk about the aging demographic of the farmers. I feel like a big opportunity for young agronomists, sales, anybody in the agronomy space is to bridge the gap for those farmers, help them with the challenges that they're faced just to do their job. Just the days of getting in a mechanical-based equipment isn't even there. I mean, that's kind of gone by the wayside to technology driven, and it's frustrating to people that grew up with the things that were the way that their dads did it. So being from the area has definite advantages to familiar faces with growers, the relationship that's probably predisposed there, and cut the chit chat, cut the small talk, and what are you here for type of deal. But that's where the relationship drives. If you're a local and you're selling something, people have to trust you. And if you can't maintain your end of the relationship, it's really challenging. Like I said, the technology is crazy. The amount of just computers that it takes to make something happen anymore is just daunting. And I think that that's accelerating the exit of some of these farmers. So I talked about the average age being 58 or 57 and a half, I can't remember exactly. They estimate in the next 10 years that $1 trillion of private wealth is going to exchange hands in agriculture. A lot of that being aging landowners and transitioning to their children. So a challenge that I see for farmers and young farmers that I'm working with in my similar age is how do they build relationships and how do they prove to potential landlords, potential clients that they're a good steward, that they're a good farmer. Being a solid agronomist and having that resource for farmers to say, I work with FS or I work with whoever, and they, I trust them to help me do a good job on your farm. I mean, that's helping the farmer sell themselves. The average size of the American farm is approximately 450 acres, and it's a lot of the 450 acre farmers that I work with, that is not a sole source of income anymore. It's increasingly demanding, margins are tight, interest rates are high. Sorry, Charlie. So it's just a really, really unique challenge. When I went to Brookings thinking I was going to be an agronomist and be this technical position and spent hours and hours in labs and that everything about the dirt and the plants and what it takes to get a corn crop into the bin, none of that matters if you can't have a relationship with someone. So I think this panel and what you guys are doing with the Thrive is just a great point to prove there that it's all people-based. So, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Brennan. You guys are doing a great job promoting the NextWave Network and what we've got going on here tonight. Thank you. I've got a closing question that I'll have each of you ask. It's a two-part question. Feel free to answer some of it, all of it, at least part of it. And if, as we go down the line again, I can repeat it if we need to. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice about working and growing in Yankton, what would it be? And what's one thing you think the community could do better to support and retain young professionals like yourselves?
All right, thank you. If I could give my younger self some advice, I'd say don't give up on Yankton. Moving back to Yankton as a young professional, young adult, I was like, oh, I grew up here. My mom and dad live here. Like, I don't want to go back. But I'm really, really glad that we did. My husband encouraged us to do that, and it was the right move at the time. It still is the right move for our family. Again, having young kids here, we have 3 kids, a 6, 4, and 2-year-old. And Kids Campus, that comes first to mind. Having young opportunities for young, little kids. If we can keep that going here in Yankton, that would be huge. There's a lot going on here. It's a great community. I have friends in Sioux Falls, Omaha, Lincoln, and everything that they say we do, we do. We have breweries, we have movie theater, we have the lake, all things that they have as well. So there's a lot to do here, and just continue to advertise those opportunities.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember part of it.
Yeah, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about working and growing in Yankton, what would it be? And what's one thing you think the community could do better to support and retain young professionals?
Good job. You guys are awesome. So younger self advice is dream bigger, but be more patient getting there. I think I'm still fairly young, but I've already been doing this for a decade. And the biggest mistake, and I think a lot of us when we're young in our leadership, we're young in our professional field, and I think so many things feel so much more like mission critical in the immediate, at the expense of what could happen, the delayed returns on the investment, so to speak. I think so. Like for me, we're a grassroots organization. We started with 5 people just gathering together. Honestly, my mother-in-law's basement was our 5-person low core group, and now we have over 600 people gathered together last Sunday. And I think early on I made a lot of bad decisions, not evil decisions, but bad decisions, because I think everything felt like this needs to have the quickest return on investment so we can survive to the next day at the expense of a bigger impact later. And so despite whatever success quote unquote success we're experiencing now, I think we'd be healthier now if a younger me would have dreamt bigger, because we had such small ambition early on. And then we were in such a hurry to get to that small ambition. So I would say dream big, but take your time. And then to retain the young generation, to people who have the ability, I would say, give them a chance. Like, give them a chance while they're young. This is really fun for me. my good friend Mike Stevens is here. Mike's been like a parent to me and a mentor to me. And I'm in ministry because when I was a teenager, Mike gave me an opportunity to lead a Bible study once. And honestly, like that, leading that Bible study was like the spark that lit the flame that made me become who I'm going to become, just because somebody gave me a chance. And so that would be my advice to retain young people. Well, let's recruit them while they're young, instead of saying, hey, why don't you maybe come back later when you're more experienced or qualified. Let's qualify them rather than rushing to do it ourselves, and let's empower them along the way.
So I would tell young Brennan to be patient, because woof, she was in a hurry to get something done. I graduated in the middle of a recession. That was fun. No one was hiring. So I was a bartender. I worked at a coffee shop. I taught dance. I worked at Macy's. But I was hustling. And all those jobs were fine, but it's not what I went to college for. It's not what I saw myself doing forever. But I would look back and realize now that all of those jobs that I did and all of those mentors that I had, or really bad bosses that I had, taught me exactly what I need to know to now successfully, co-own a business. Those gave me all the tools that I needed. So I would tell her to be patient and that everything's gonna fall into place. And as long as you're hustling, that's what matters. A better way for Yankton to support young professionals, and this probably really applies to my business, would be shop local. And I know people say that all the time, but it's true. We obviously have a lot to offer here in boutiques and shops and hometown pharmacies and Ace Hardware and restaurants. And I would say really think about that when you need something, or I get it. Amazon's really easy. And it's not that you can't do that. And it's not that you can't go out of town and go to the mall and all of those things. But try and shop here. We're really the ones that get hit up, and we're glad to do it for your kid's soccer team, or, a poker run to benefit somebody who's maybe fighting an illness. And we're happy to support that. But the only way we can do that is continued support from the community. So I would say open your eyes to that. One thing that I always think of is, I love McDonald's and I love their French fries. And no offense to McDonald's, but they've screwed up my order more times than I can even count. But you know what? I still go back to McDonald's because I like their French fries. And if a small business has a little blunder, you write them off real quick and you never go again. And I would just try and be thoughtful in that. We make mistakes, or maybe somebody's having a bad day, or maybe somebody's short-staffed. But I think it's important to give second chances if you can. I do know that happens a lot, and us business owners downtown talk a lot. So I would say just give everybody a second chance and really try to be mindful of shopping local when you can.
My number one piece of advice that comes to mind too is just slow down. My favorite saying used to be that Rome wasn't built in a day, but I wasn't in charge then either. So, and I can assure you that it's a good thing I wasn't, because it would not still be standing. So, patience is such a virtue, and to ditch the preconceived notions. I mean, graduating high school and you got the, kind of got the world on your shoulders, and you think you got it all figured out, and fast forward, almost 10 years, and I'm sitting at a panel with 4 random people, right? And I can think of a way that we're all immediately connected. We've got 20 trucks on the road that have Shur-Co tarps on them. I've got customers that are parishioners at Restore, and I've got guys that I work with that are loaded up with Red Wing boots. So it's kind of cool how you're all intertwined, and you just don't know where you're going to end up. So Yankton is a great place to be, and one thing I would encourage, if we're the young professionals, maybe the middle-aged professionals, is to give us a chance. That everybody was in our shoes at one point too, and the world's changing, and this is just kind of our time in history where we fit in. So,
Thank you all. That was really good. I felt like I did a great job because you guys answered my questions so well. Made it really easy. That's what we've got. I'll turn it over to Lauren for a few closing words.
Thank you all so much for being here. Can we give them a round of applause? And please thank you to Charlie too for being our moderator. So I do want to give a little plug. Amanda, will you hold up that sign? That is a QR code to sign up for our NextWave email list. So if you have not done that already, please do so. You'll just get updates for our next events and stuff like that. But that's really all I have for you. Thank you for being here.